Hey, I'm Alex from Temple of Void,
I'm done.
and we're going to talk to you about our rigs today. So we're going to start off at the beginning of the signal chain with our guitars. And my main guitar for Temple of Void is this 2011 Les Paul Standard, purchased by my wife. Pretty awesome gift, I must say. And I've always been a Les Paul guy. I've tried a variety of others. I own a handful of guitars, but I keep coming back to the Les Paul. There's something about the weight, just about the playability. Absolutely love them. This one has an X2N in the bridge. I do not remember what I put in the neck, because how often do we play the neck pickup? Don't need it. It's obsolete as far as I'm concerned, but the X2N is super hot passive pickup. Used to be into EMGs. Once I went back to passives, it's like there's no looking back. I love the percussive sound of passive pickups. So it's super hot output. This one's been modified as far as there's like a bone nut that I put in it, and it's got gold hardware, which is new. Yeah, and it's like chambered, which I wasn't sure how that was gonna work out, because my other Les Paul's an 81 and it's heavier, but the chamber, like, it helps with sustain. It's a really good guitar. So I use this on pretty much every recording that we do, and I plan on using it on the next one too, on album 4. Strings, SIT strings, they're light, they're gauge 10, but whatever, it works for me. And we play in drop C, so CGC FAD. And pick perspective, Don turned me on to the heavier picks. He goes with the heaviest picks that money can buy, and I like those, but these particular custom ones that we got are like one notch down from the heaviest. But I like the rigidity. It helps for some of the more, I hate to use the word technical, since we're not the most technical band in the world, but some of the more articulate sort of technical playing we do, then definitely having like a thicker pick helps out.
I've got my ESP Eclipse that I've had for probably 20 years now. It's been my longest tenured piece of equipment that I've had, like between all the guitars and amps that have come and gone over the years. I love this guitar. It's for sure the guitar that I'll never ever get rid of. It's one of the 90s ESPs with the bolt-on neck and the dot inlays, original Floyd Rose. I've got a Guitarmery Patriot humbucker in the bridge. Passive pickup, super high output, tons of attack, just sounds awesome. I was also an EMG guy for years and years. When I switched to this, I don't think I'm going back. Yeah, like I said, I love this guitar. I've got a couple other backups that I use, whichever one I can get my hands on.
That's true. I didn't talk about that. We both have Mockingbirds.
That's right. Yeah, we do.
And Brent has a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So the full string section all has Mockingbirds.
Yeah.
I also have a Gibson Les Paul Explorer. I have a Gibson Explorer, which I really dig too.
I have an Explorer as well, but it's also an ESP1 LTD technically. But yeah, this I love this guitar. Like, this is it's probably because I've had it for so long. It always feels good, and really, like, no other guitar that I've had like feels like this one.
My 81 Les Paul's like that too. Never going.
Yeah, the retired one, right?
It's retired.
Yeah.
It's retired from active service, but it's been with me through so many wars and whatnot. But there's something about it that, just like for you, you're bonded with that instrument.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get rid of my 81 Les Paul Standard. But having said that, I don't have it set up for death metal right now. I've got it sort of set up for I don't know, just dicking around.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's in standard E for the first time.
There you go.
In decades.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've got 11 to 54 for the strings. They're Dunlop heavy cores, which I switched to, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago now, I think. They always play great. They feel broken in, like, out of the pack, which is something that I really like about them.
something that we diverge on there.
Yeah.
I like my bright, crisp strings. He likes the worn in.
Yeah, I like that's the thing always with new strings. They always like feel a little too brittle or sound a little too brittle, like right out of the pack. But these ones, like there's like a lot of that high end stuff is kind of gone from them, you know, which I like, and I'm more into the murky kind of tone. Anyway, yeah, same thing. I got Dunlop 2mm gator grips, super thick, like great for, you know, playing fast, even playing slow. Like if I can bend the pick, I can't really use it unless I'm playing on an acoustic. That's a little different. But if I'm doing what we're doing, it's always one of these guys. You have a much more interesting effects setup than I do.
Well,
So quite a lot more going on, and you know, in that realm, which is cool. You know, that's, you know,
Yeah.
we got to diverge a little bit somewhere here and there,
Yeah.
not just on strings, right?
no, I mean, I think it's actually interesting having the conversation because there's so much similarity in both of our guitar histories, and so much of what we do is there's just you're a little bit this way, I'm a little bit this way, but
Yeah.
we're still close. We're within arm's reach of one another. It's not chalk and cheese. And I think even when we go through this, I think there's a lot of commonality between what we do and what we like from a pedal perspective. So one thing, for instance, Don definitely got me into using the loop. I'm definitely a caveman, and I used to just run everything in front. But once I started experimenting and actually hearing how Don was getting more out of some of his pedals than I was, just depending how they interacted with the loop versus how they are in front, I was like, I need to try that too. Oh shit, the loop's where it's at. So I have this split where I have some stuff running in front and then some stuff going through the loop. I've had this tuner for 100 million years. Until it breaks, that'll be my tuner. So got the Univibe, use that a little bit and like Leave the Light Behind and maybe Self Schism. I can't remember. I like a lot of movement in my pedals. So I like the Univibe. Flanger. Don has the bigger MXR flanger, and I didn't need the extra knob, I guess, so I went to the micro one so I could fit more on my pedal board. But I really enjoy the flanger. Chorus, I use that a lot, just to add texture and just to bring out some of the more articulate passages. And I'm a sucker for 80s and 90s sounds. So when you've got like, you know, flangers and choruses, like they're pretty period.
Yeah.
So they never got a style as far as I'm concerned. So I use this a lot. And then we've got this phaser, and if I was traveling and I could only like choose maybe like two pedals, I'm pretty sure like the phaser and the chorus would be my two go-tos. You can do similar things with the flanger and the phaser, but I really enjoy just getting that big. Yeah, I dig it. So
That's lots of movement, like you're talking about. That can like fill a whole room.
Yeah, and it can be wild, but I really enjoy kind of when you're gonna step on a pedal. Like we're not subtle. We're cave people.
Right.
So
I want to make sure it's heard.
I want to make sure it's heard,
yeah.
and definitely when putting it in the loop, sometimes that shit's heard. So that's great. This is I don't know if it's my secret weapon, but this is like my favorite new pedal. It's called the Caverns, and it has reverb and delay. Normally, I prefer pedals that have maybe just like a couple knobs on it. This has a lot,
Yeah, there's
but
a lot.
they all
a lot
make
of stuff going on
sense.
there.
I know how to use it.
Yeah.
It's not daunting. There's switches, knobs, but this was able to replace my reverb and my delay. I was able to take them off my board and combine it with this one pedal. But this has so much more, like with the shimmer effects and with the ability to really like self-oscillate and just create crazy textures with this. I'm in love with this pedal. You definitely hear the shimmer in Leave the Light Behind, and you'll definitely hear it, and in The World That Was
too.
The World That
Yeah.
Was for sure, and you'll definitely hear it on the new album. This is my favorite sort of secret weapon. And
It has an almost like orchestral kind of feel to it. Like when depending on what notes you're striking with it.
Yeah, and especially when I play with less distortion, which is a rarity, but when I do dick around with less distortion, that's when this pedal really comes to life. So we'll see what happens on album 4, like how we're able to layer things, because I can get the most out of this if I really dial back the distortion. It's a beautiful sounding pedal, and I feel like, honestly, I don't use it to its fullest, because of just like everything's on 10.
Right.
Having said that, the Ringworm is another. It's out of print, out of press. It's not available. They don't make it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's out of production. But I love this Ringworm pedal. Very Hawkwind inspired. The story with this one is we used a ring modulator on one of the tracks on of Terran Supernatural. The name escapes me, but it was a real ring modulator, and I was like, what are we gonna do live? Like, that's really cool. So I went out and I bought this, and this was my favorite ring mod, and it does some crazy stuff. I've definitely used it on Hellmouth recordings, and I'm not sure if I think I may have used it a little bit of texture. Yes, I did. I've used this for a little bit of texture, but this is just crazy for making just the gnarliest Hawkwind ring mod sounds. I love this pedal. Decimator, that's a really good noise reduction pedal. Got this Ditto looper. That's great for practicing and just getting, rhythm and lead stuff going. Yeah. And it's really cool for just like interstitial soundscapes, playing live, that kind of stuff. Used it a little bit on some of the recordings, and then this is like a really good ABY pedal that has it isolates the different channels and also can invert the phases, because I used to run 2 amps at the same time. So one was American, one was British, so you needed to kind of invert the phases, whatever, technical shit. But this is very helpful for that, and it's got a ground lift. And it's also phantom powered. So all of that put together, I've actually tried a lot of ABY pedals, and this is hands down the best ABY pedal. It's such a mundane thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But it is really like the best ABY pedal. It's got, and I keep it on here even though I only run 1 amp, just so that I can use the ground lift if I need to. And yeah, just pretty much keep it on for that if there's some weird hum going on. And I use George L's. They're solderless cables that you can cut to length, and that's what I string this all together with. I've got a power source, whatever this is, 8-spot power source thing. And that's my pedal board. I don't need all this shit, but I've got room for it.
The thing fell.
Oh.
The flag. I think it's been 2 years now since we've played a live show, right? How, aside from the cavern being on the board, like, is there anything else that's different on the board now than from, say, the last time we played live?
I don't know if I had the Univibe last time I played live or not. I may have. But there has been different pedals that cycle in and out, and I'm sure this will look different between now and March, and the next time we record. So who knows? I feel like I need to get I used to have a tremolo, and I feel like I need to get the tremolo back. I sold it, and I shouldn't have sold it. So.
Yeah, so like I said, for mine's a little, it's quite a scaled down version of what you've got going on. But clearly I'm a Dunlop fan. Between the picks and the strings and the pedals and the power supply, and I've got the one lone boss up here. Everything that I have here all goes through my effects loop. Starts with the MXR carbon copy delay, then goes into the flanger, and then ends with the micro chorus. I pretty much use one of them or all 3 of them at the same time. It just kind of depends, what I'm kind of feeling at the moment. I don't really have any hard and fast rules for how I'm coloring leads. Especially like if we're doing them live, they might be a little different. The chorus and the flanger almost kind of have they have a very similar sound and effect to them. When either one of them are engaged. The chorus, the way it's lined into the effects loop kind of acts almost like a boost, where I get a much louder response out of it whenever I have this one out.
I've got the Boss one, but it definitely gives you that volume boost.
Yeah, and I thought maybe I had it like in a bad spot in the chain, so I actually swapped it out. I moved it in between. I switched where it was with the flanger, and it still does the same thing. So I go with it.
Hey, louder's better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, like delay, chorus, flanger, those are like the big three for me. If I was gonna take 3 pedals, like I would take all of them.
Yep.
You know, I like to keep it pretty simple for the most part. Got some ideas for some more natural effects for album 4, but
yeah, we'll keep that.
yeah, that's gonna be that'll
Keep
be
that in our back pocket.
yeah, that'll be revealed when time is right. Yeah, I got tuner, and yeah, like everything goes, everything's in the effects loop. One thing with the pickups on my guitar, I have the tone pot is bypassed, so it just goes from the volume to the input jack. Try to keep as little interference as possible between the guitar and the amp. That's why like I don't even plug into the tuner unless I'm actually tuning, like if I'm playing straight, and I get rid of it and just go straight into the amp. Let's talk about amps.
Yeah, let's wrap it up with amps.
You've had, I know, a couple of different things here and there. You know, you're using the orange now. You said when you used to run 2 amps live, you're using a dual rectifier.
Yep. Yeah.
And
So
the orange.
the dual rectifier has kind of been my my soulmate. You know, for the same way that the Les Paul and your Eclipse has been. I don't remember how many million years I've had the dual rec for. Record everything with it in the studio. I typically blend the tones, like that's always my primary tone, but then I reamp the signal, and that's where I'll blend it with like an HM2 or an Orange or a Marshall or a 5150 or whatever, just to get like an added texture, whatever I'm looking for. But there's always the dual rec as the underlying backbone, and I think there's a lot of clarity in the way that I set it up, and just what you can get out of a dual rec. It's one thing to sound good by yourself in a room that's very different from playing in a band and getting the right frequencies together, and I think the dual rec does an amazing job of being heavy but also sitting in the right frequency levels, so that you can hear it, it's articulate, it's heavy, and it doesn't sound just like mush. So I love the dual rec. Having said that, I might sell it, and I might get that JJ100 from Friedman. It's no surprise or no shock to anyone that we're a really big Alice in Chains fan, and Jerry Cantrell's tone is godly, and Friedman is a Detroit, not Detroit based, they're in California, but David Friedman's from Detroit, and he does these Jerry Cantrell signature amps, and I might sell my dual rec and pick that up. Probably happy. But behind me I've got the orange TH100, so I've got the dual rec full stack, and I've got the TH100 full stack. And I've just been, as much as I just said how much I love the dual rec, which is true, I have been really enjoying the TH100. I really like, I mean, it's something different. I don't know if I'd use it instead in the studio, but for practice, like I love how it sounds. It's got like a woollier kind of tone to it, but it's still super heavy, and I like when tones are a little bit out of control. I talked about being articulate, which is important, but I think it's nice to balance that with being a little bit off the rails at times. And I think there's a little bit of like squishiness or fuzziness to the TH100 that I'm quite enjoying, and I'm trying to turn back the distortion to a degree, even though, you know, in our signal chain the X2N is like the hottest output that Marcio makes. We've got a lot of like high output energy shit happening. We're a death metal band, but for clarity and heaviness sake, sometimes you got to turn it down. I can't turn it down on the guitar. So I'm kind of rocking it back a little bit from an EQ perspective, and it helps because you have to think about the whole band. It's not just how you sound.
Yeah, there's a lot of context.
Yeah, it's very contextual. We can just scoop it and it'll sound amazing in your bedroom. But it doesn't sound good if you scoop it and play in a band. So yeah, I love the TH100. I love the dual rectifier. I used to use them both at the same time and split the signal. Since Don's joined the band, I don't do that anymore. I just use the dual rec. But yeah, it's a great complement to your setup.
Yeah. How different is again, like from the last time we played live? You know, how is your live setup different from how you record at all, amp wise?
I mean, it isn't really. I mean, because live, when I switch to just one amp, I switch to the Mesa. And like I said, every time I record something, it's always the Mesa. And the only variable is like which guitar did I bring, the Explorer, did I bring the Les Paul, did I bring the Mockingbird? And they can all, juggle for live shows. Yeah. But for recording, I've used both the Explorer and I've used all three on records for different things. But I think the Les Paul, like the 2011 Les Paul, the one I'm going to bring for album 4. Yeah, for sure. And we'll see what happens in the studio, what heads we end up using. Right. That's still TBD, So, what do we talk about yours?
Yeah, I've got PV 5152. I've had a lot of PV amps over the years. 5150 original 212. I think one of my first like practice combo amps was a PV.
I had the 5150 with the 212.
The 212, yeah, I had one of those.
Too. Yeah, that was my first. Yeah, and then I got the head.
Yeah, and I wish I still had the combo. Actually, I wish I still had the original head that I got rid of. I sold that after I bought one of the Framus Cobra heads, which is back. That's just at home now. I bought the 5152 after I bought the Framus. For me, PV is just the way to go. Like it's
Dunlop PV.
Yeah,
you're a loyal man.
It's for me like that. The tone that comes out of that is the most crushing tone, and it's all amp. Like there's no like one thing I don't have on my board is an OD pedal or any kind of distortion pedal or anything like that. I just don't really need it. And then I've got two 412s. I've got Marshall and a PV 412, and I get kind of the best of both worlds sound-wise. The Marshall gives off the mid-range bite that they're always known for, and I get all kinds of heavy low end from the PV. So like I said, best of both worlds. Yeah. If there's a situation where I'm only taking one cab, I'd probably take the PV. But that head also sounds great through the Marshall by itself too.
I like it better through the Marshall. Yeah. Just because of the way you set it up. Because you go for a darker tone through the head. Yeah. So I like how the Marshall complements the darker tone by brightening it up. But yeah, it's great when you've got both, because then you've got the low end jug and you've got the articulate high end stuff, and it makes it perfect.
And it's kind of good too with having the Marshall like on top, so it gives you like a little more cut. Yep. Because it's sitting up here as opposed to more towards the floor.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, 5150s, great shit. Yeah.
Love them.
Yes. So I think that's about it. Yeah. That's our chain. I don't think we did. I guess maybe one thing, Floyd's. You're a loyal Floyd
Always.
guy.
Dive till you die, man.
That's one area that we diverged on. I cannot be bothered changing those strings on a Floyd.
We'll get you to do some dives on album 4.
Yeah, if I can borrow it and someone else sets it up for me, I'm down. Otherwise,
I'll let you use mine. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I tracked the lead on The World I Was with your Les Paul.
That's true.
So
yeah, there's a tidbit. Okay, so I think that's our rig. If you stuck with us through this whole episode, good for you. You're a bigger nerd than we give you credit for. So
thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you around. Peace.